Welcome to Fight Companion number 6, I believe.
Wow, we're climbing on up there.
Man, we're just climbing these rankings like Conor McGregor in 145.
Going all the way up to 170.
What a segue!
Wow. Conor McGregor announces that he's going to fight Cowboy Cerrone.
At 170.
In January, or is it February?
January 18th, I believe. Myself and every other person with an iota of Irish blood has that date marked on a calendar. It's a national holiday now. Yeah.
Yeah, look at
you
that.
You too.
Yeah.
I think it's a mistake for him to choose to fight again at 170.
Oh, really?
I really think that it's a bad idea. And
also, welcome to our hostage negotiation.
We've been banished to the basement by our wives and not our laziness, is the narrative that I want to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't want to track all the computer stuff and just
But I think it's not a good idea that Conor McGregor is trying to fight Cowboy Cerrone at 170.
Why? Because Cowboys had so much success at 170 and Conor hasn't won a match at 170.
I think he won the second Nate Diaz fight,
arguably.
I think it's because what you just said. Cerrone is accustomed to the weight class. He has a somewhat, not the hardest, but a somewhat difficult cut to 155. Conor is I would say the poster boy for if there was a 150-pound weight class in the UFC.
Right. Okay.
That would be his what I would call natural weight class.
Gotcha.
145 is a little too light. 155 is just I'd say slightly
little too heavy.
Yeah. So the fact that they're jumping up to 170 in my mind stacks the deck more in Cerrone's favor because I think Cerrone. He moved up to 170 for a reason. He doesn't like making the cut to 155. There's really no reason for Conor to move to 170, except that he's likely trying to fight Masvidal.
Right.
For the BMF belt.
Which would make sense. So, besides the weight cut, because I do agree that I think the fight should have been at 155, because then I think that would definitely be in Conor's favor.
Yeah.
Especially if he's trying to get the rematch with Khabib.
Yeah. Which he's stated is his main, overarching driving goal now, is to get, fight enough, do enough to get the rematch with Khabib and try to take him out, right?
But the thing is that I don't think that works for him if he's going to fight Cowboy at that weight. But I think what you're saying, that he wants to then fight
Masvidal.
But he could have had the Masvidal fight.
Yeah. That's what I don't completely understand the logic here.
Yeah.
Aside from,
I think it's a quick turnaround for Masvidal.
Yeah, it's a quick turnaround for Masvidal. I like this because I don't think that the UFC or MMA fighters in general do a good enough job of protecting their fighters and giving them ring time, giving them cage time, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so I like the fight for Conor. I like that he's fighting Cowboy. I think it'll tell us a lot about where he stands now and where he stands in the division.
Right.
Is he still? Because the real question McGregor has to answer now is Conor McGregor still a top 5 fighter?
Right.
And Cowboy Cerrone is the quintessential matchup for somebody to say oh yeah, you're a top 5 fighter.
Yep.
And so I'm stoked. I think this is the right fight they should have made. I think it's dumb that they are doing it at 170.
And I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
So, but stylistically, then who do you think is able to win the match?
Well, I think the weight favors Cerrone, for the reasons we said, because he will be the bigger man on fight night.
Okay.
Conor, I think the cardio issues are slightly overblown, but let's just say he doesn't have the best gas tank in the UFC, right? Mm-hmm. So carrying that extra weight's not going to help a fighter who's as explosive as he is. So I think that this slightly stacks the favor towards Cerrone.
Gotcha.
But this is a big question as well. That a lot of people are saying, tons of people are making the argument that Conor McGregor is just going to walk through Cowboy Cerrone, that I'm seeing. And people are making the argument that Cerrone's just going to blow McGregor out of the water because he's shot, right?
Yeah, so I think that Conor's probably going to knock out Cerrone just because the fact that, Cowboy got knocked out against Gaethje.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that, Cowboy Cerrone's chinny at all,
or shot or anything.
Yeah, because he's not. But he's also an older fighter, and the fact that what would you say is the best attributes of Cowboy Cerrone?
His kicking game.
Yeah, and I think because of the southpaw matchup, it just doesn't work for Cowboy because when when somebody's like fighting somebody who's southpaw and they're an orthodox and they're gonna go throw their rear kick, it's gonna line up right for Conor's left hand.
Yeah.
And that's a huge problem for Cowboy. And he's not a good. Well, he's a good kicker in general, right? But his best kicks are the rear kicks, right? He's not a Barbosa that can switch kick and go into southpaw really quick and then hit that left kick.
I can't remember seeing Cerrone fight in southpaw
right
at any time.
Well, even the switch kick. I mean, obviously he's good at switch kicking,
but he's not like 99.999 percentile in the UFC at switch kicking.
Right. He's not Barbosa.
Yeah. I think that there is a very real path to victory for Cowboy Cerrone in this. Like I said, he is the bigger man. I think there's a couple attributes he's got that will actually help him. The kicking game, like we talked about, right? We also just haven't... We've seen Cerrone against a few different southpaws, and he has had trouble, right? But we haven't seen him fight a southpaw that's as bladed as Conor McGregor is. And I think something that people are overlooking is he did used to train out of the same camp as Jones. And so he's gonna know those kicks. The low line side kick, the oblique kick to the front leg. And I think Cowboy could really beat up that front leg of Conor and stay outside of Conor's reach.
But Jones kicks. Would he be able to? Because if he say he doesn't do an oblique kick from the rear, I think it just opens up.
I don't think he would do an oblique kick from the rear though.
Okay.
I think that he would either do a low line side kick with his right leg to McGregor's front leg.
Okay.
Or a little. These are the two kicks I see Cerrone throwing: the shuffle step up outside leg kick, the low line side kick, and then I see him trying to time maybe a left the front kick.
Okay.
Right up like the Anderson Silva versus Vitor Belfort.
Right.
I see him maybe trying to time that or a roundhouse.
But yeah, because I think any roundhouse rear kicks are gonna land him in a very
I agree with
bad
you.
spot.
I think and that's the issue. That's what I'm scared of. If Cerrone gets trapped into that southpaw orthodox matchup, which is the right straight, right roundhouse kick, right? That is not going to favor him because that's Conor's wheelhouse, and he'll be able to step in on the roundhouse kick or counter the.
Or just eat the roundhouse kick to the front leg and just knock him out.
So, I think number one, I think he will be able to chew up Conor's front leg with his own front leg kicking off of it. I think Conor's very susceptible to that stance, and he hasn't had anybody use that method of attack on him. The most accomplished kickboxer he fought was Dennis Seaver. And even then, Seaver didn't try to target the front leg with low line side kicks.
Seaver was also on his way out of it.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Seaver, that's my point though. Seaver is the most accomplished kickboxer he's ever fought.
Right.
And Seaver was really good at when he was 10 years younger than when he fought Conor. And Seaver didn't throw that low line side kick until Conor was throwing it at him. He just sort of threw him back I don't like that. Stop it.
Right.
So if Cowboy comes out and actually starts instituting that, I think it will start to give Conor a lot of trouble, and that'll really. He wasn't as bouncy ever since Alvarez, but if he is trying to rely on any type of movement or moving back and stuff
which
like
will probably gas Conor out because he is 170 now.
Yeah. So I think that's one thing. Like I said, the weight favors Cerrone because Cerrone is the naturally heavier man. It's a more natural. I think Cerrone's probably a natural 165er or 160 fighter. Conor's a natural 150 fighter. So I think the weight will favor Cerrone a little bit more. I think he'll be more comfortable. I think Conor is going to have problems with his energy systems and his cardio. And then the other big problem is Cerrone has a damn good submission game.
Okay. So
I am worried if the issue for Cerrone is how does he get the fight to the ground?
Yeah, how does he take? Because he's not great at taking down people.
And Conor has underrated takedown defense.
Right.
He actually showed, I'd say, the best takedown defense against Khabib that we've seen. Granted, he was fouling.
To be fair, I think he has Conor has at least maybe the top 5 takedown defenses of
lightweight
almost everybody. I think, to be honest with you,
I think so too. He does a really good job, and it's kind of the John Jones things where the long reach really helps with the leverage and the clinch and stuff like that. And Cowboy does not show a good wrestling game, but it's better than people think it is. So if he's able to get an opportunistic wrestling match, he tricks Conor into thinking that it's almost the reverse of the Khabib, where Khabib was able to knock Conor down with implementing the threat of the takedown. I think if Cowboy can implement the threat of the front kick enough, in the first couple of rounds, then he could get an opportunistic takedown,
Right.
and then I think he'd be able to work something because Cowboy's got a good top game.
How does Cowboy, get him to think that he's gonna stop doing the front kick and then go for the takedown from there?
I think that
That's not super easy to do because it's such a rangy.
he'll have
move.
to have walked Conor back to the fence. That's the only thing he's going to be able to do,
Right.
and hope that Conor wasn't prepping for a takedown because he thought it was going to be a kickboxing fight.
Right.
But Cerrone has shown a willingness to tactically give up kickboxing and go into wrestling in order to win a fight before, and I think that that's what he'll try to do, and I think he could do it. I think there are very real paths to victory for Cowboy Cerrone.
Well, how much is Cowboy gonna want to implement that? Do you think that he's gonna want to beat Conor at his own game, at his striking? Like, does Cowboy have that much pride in himself that he's gonna forego? I'm gonna submit him and I'm just gonna knock his ass out.
I don't think he cares that much because, like I said before, he has wrestled. Like he has even tried to wrestle sometimes when he's lost, and he's wrestled in order to implement a game plan and get the win. I don't think it's an issue. I'm curious as well because Cowboy's been wanting this fight for a long time, and I'm curious what he wants out of it. Like I can say very succinctly, like, oh, Conor wants to fight Cowboy. He wants to fight Masvidal. Then he wants to fight Khabib.
Right.
For Cowboy, I'm like, okay, well, is this what you've been wanting? Is this your red panty night, and then you have the money, and
Just
what do you
retire?
Yeah, exactly. Like, was your goal to get the fight, or was your goal to win the fight? That's what the issue is. And Cowboy's a great vet, and I would never question his motivation. But I think that it's like, how do you go from 90% to 100%? And I think that is truly having a good reason for why you're doing what you're doing.
And let's don't be naive in the fact that for any viewers out there, they're like, oh no, Cowboy loves the fight. He absolutely he loves the fight, but he fights at the end of the day for a paycheck.
He's a prize fighter.
Yeah.
100% he's a prize fighter. And that's why I'm saying it's good enough. A 90% Cowboy Cerrone is good enough to beat guys who are lower on the. And the other issue is he's had a hard time every time he's had a true opportunity to really step up and elevate either for a championship or on a mass scale or mass audience. It hasn't worked.
Right. And
so that's what concerns me is how Cowboy's headspace is going into this fight, because I think the goal for him was, I want to fight Conor McGregor. That's my goal. And I feel like he'll have accomplished that goal, and he'll still show up. He'll still be game. He'll still try his best. But I question whether he'll have that
the resolve to
exactly
okay.
The resolve to push it further. There was the dedication to have really game plan, watch tape for 4 hours every night, to just be thinking about it constantly. Because I think it might have just been oh, I wanted to fight Conor. We've got it. Hey baby, we've got the money. It doesn't even matter how the fight goes.
Right.
In the back of his mind, deep down, subconsciously even.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because that brings us to Andy Ruiz versus Anthony Joshua, because I can tell you why Anthony Joshua is going to knock out Andy Ruiz.
Really?
Really.
Why?
And the answer might surprise you. And it ties into what we were just talking about with Cowboy Cerrone and chasing the red panty night, right? So, there's a couple things here. I actually favored Ruiz to win against Joshua.
Uh-huh. Then
I watched something. I watched Andy Ruiz, who had a vlogger that came to his camp named Dank City. So this guy, Dank City, he came and did a 3-part series with Andy Ruiz, basically where he just followed Andy around.
Right, with all his riches that he has now.
Did you watch it?
Yeah,
okay, so you watched it. If you guys haven't yet, you can find it. It's Dank City, Day in the Life series with Andy Ruiz. Basically, there were a few things that Andy did that made me a bit concerned for my chunky boy. Number 1. I don't have a numbering system, but there were a few issues. The first thing that I picked up on in the very first episode, the first time that the guy's talking to Andy, he's kind of asking about the fight and stuff. Andy literally said he can't wait. He just can't wait for the fight to be over. He goes, I just can't wait for the fight to be over. That's number 1. That's not the mindset you want from somebody who is coming into the biggest event he's ever been a part of. It's the biggest spectacle. The first fight, he only had 2 weeks of build-up. He was just the unknown challenger. No one really cared. They thought Josh was just going to squash him.
Right.
Now, you have a guy who's at the pinnacle, the ascension of his boxing career. For now, right?
Sure.
And he says he just wants to get the fight over with. That's not the like. If I was Andy's coach, that's not the attitude I would want to see from my fighter.
Okay. Now I can't wait for the rebuttal that I'm gonna make.
So the other thing is Andy's always been a big guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's always. I think his weight is actually one of his strengths, but the man is getting ridiculous in this camp. He literally ate pizza, hot wings, and pasta on film, and that was one meal.
Mm-hmm.
That was one meal.
Yeah, of course.
Which I don't have an issue with his size. It's that it's the type of junk food he's consuming instead of like good calories.
Do you think he was on the carnivore diet or the keto diet before he beat AJ?
No, but that's what I'm gonna get to
Okay,
later.
okay.
So I agree with you, right?
Yeah.
I think that part is likely par for the course,
Mm-hmm.
but I think having the longer camp on that diet is actually a lot harder because he had 2 weeks. He wasn't in camp. That means that like he didn't get beat down nearly as much, and that's where nutrition comes into play.
Okay.
It's in recovery. That's the thing. Like boxers, fighters, they all say the hardest part is getting to the fight. It's getting through the camp.
Mm-hmm.
Now he has a full, I think he did a 16-week camp, right?
Mm-hmm.
He did a full 16-week camp. That diet for 16 weeks, it's not going to allow him to the recovery, the anabolic energy systems to be built up the same way. And I don't think it would have mattered as much for the 2-week camp. Granted, his cardio is great. His cardio is fantastic.
Are you factoring in that Andy actually fought somebody 2 weeks before the AJ fight, or it was either 2 weeks or a month before the AJ fight?
I think it was a month.
Okay.
And because he kept his weight down in between the two fights,
Mm-hmm.
and then he came back, but he was still resting.
Mm-hmm.
Like he still had like 2 weeks, ish, right, of really good rest, and then he went back into the camp. This has been 16 weeks, no rest.
Okay.
Then I'm concerned that this is the same thing we were just talking about. I call it like the McGregor effect, right? Where Conor McGregor, he achieved his goal and then he doesn't really know what to accomplish next and he sort of goes off the rails. I don't think Andy Ruiz is going to be punching any old guys in bars or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you do get the impression that he's very happy now.
Yeah.
In this series, he bought $500,000 well, more than $500,000 worth of cars
Mm-hmm.
in 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think, and he even talked about his main motivation was making sure that he could take care of his 5 kids and his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he talks about the wanting to buy diapers for his kids, all this type of stuff. That's his main motivation. He can do that now. And especially after the second fight, he's set for life as long as he doesn't spend stupidly, which I don't have high hopes for, given the way this episode went. Because the episodes were like, hey, watch Andy buy stuff with like 6 dudes following
but
around.
he still goes to JCPenney. He still shops at JCPenney.
But he goes to JCPenney, then he goes everywhere else. And those are that's what I don't think he's going to be able to keep the right mentality going into this fight. In the interviews, he's never talked about chasing greatness.
Mm-hmm.
He's always been like, oh yeah, I'm going to knock out Joshua and stuff like that. He's never said like, yeah, I'm chasing a legacy. Yeah, I'm chasing any sort of overarching goal that would drive him through this fight or through further fights.
So okay, so for the first critique of Andy, the fact that he wants the fight to be over,
Get it over with.
So I think if I was Andy, right, and I have unified all the belts, I literally knocked out the most definitive way to win a fight. He didn't just tie him, right? Like, I don't know if you've seen Andy's Instagram, right, where he like takes pictures and all that, and there's a ton of AJ supporters that are like, enjoy this, you fat fuck, you know, 'cause you're gonna get knocked out December 7th, you know.
Yeah.
So there's so much question whether or not he can repeat the thing over again that he definitively did, you know, all the way in June. And so I could understand his perspective of like, okay, I got to get past this fight, and then I can go on to fight Wilder. I can go on to fight Tyson Fury or something like that. And to kind of just see over him and have that validation of like, I actually am the top heavyweight in the division right now.
But that's the issue, though. He's not even saying that stuff.
Right.
That's where I'm saying my problem is.
I think Andy is a great, loving individual, but he's not a tactician. You know, he's somebody that I grew up with in LA, in high school, in the ghetto, and just like, you know, he needs some, and that's why I think his coach I think his name is Carlos Robles or something like that. But his coach is very much like, we're continuing on with what we started, and his coach is having that vision for Andy, because I think Andy is the car, he's the engine, but the person that's driving him is his coach. And I what I hear from his coach, I hear really good things about the future, and I think he's directing Andy to that part. And even when he took a bite of that pizza, right, he's like, don't tell my coach that, right, because he knows in the back of his head, like, that's who's holding him accountable to greatness.
But I think that's the problem, right? Is accountability from somewhere external to you can only go so far. It's like, how much have you internalized that? How to make you push just that little bit harder?
Well, no. But when he did get knocked down for the first time in his career, he
got right back up.
Right, he got right back up. And that's something that he has already, right? That like Cody Garbrandt, right? He just sees red, right? Obviously,
I don't think he even saw red. Like, I thought he was pretty.
He definitely was sound.
Super reasonable.
Right, he wasn't like winging and everything, right?
I mean, you could tell he wants to get it back, but I didn't think he was like defensively unsound or something. Right. Definitely no Cody, right?
Yeah. So and for the diet part, I don't think he's ever. So he said he was gonna get thinner and all that. He's the same weight that he fought Andy, right? So he's gonna for me, or not Andy, Anthony. So he's continuing the lifestyle that he had before the fight. And then I will say the mentality of just buying so much stuff, it does cause me alarm. But on the flip side, on his opponent's side, on Anthony's side, I don't think he believes that Andy can beat him again for the second time. I truly don't believe that.
Yeah.
And then just to go back to Andy, right? Andy is actually sparring people AJ's height, right? He's had a lot more sparring in. He's had a lot more help developing himself through the camp, and I think that's just going to further. It's going to make Andy a better fighter come December 7th.
So, I think, I don't know, man. I feel like it's just an issue where we're both gonna read into it slightly differently.
Sure.
And we'll find out, right?
Right.
And you know, the weird thing is, you could be right and he could still lose, and I could be right and he could still win.
50-50.
It really, like, the things that do make me nervous though are what I said. I do feel like you're right. Like, Andy's not a tactician, and that's also why I think that the 2 weeks really favored him, as opposed to the 16 weeks. Because he's like, oh yeah, I'll just go and I'll do what I usually do. You know, I'll just fight him. It'll be fine. And I'm sort of curious. I think that now that there's a 16-week camp that is much more favorable to Joshua and his camp,
right?
Who I don't know. I don't think Joshua's like the best game plan fighter in the world or something, but I think he is more tactical than Ruiz is, as far as like tailoring specifically to the opponent that they're fighting.
So Andy or AJ has never been good in close range.
Never
been good.
Never.
And what is Andy's literal job in the heavyweight division? Getting close, right? That's all he has to do, because every single person on the heavyweight roster is going to be bigger. No, not bigger, but maybe taller than him. Definitely taller than him.
He's going to have more reach than he does.
And way more reach. So he has to implement a game plan that he's had since he was 5 years old, right? Which, at that point, do you have to be a tactician?
No, and I don't think, I'm saying, man, I think that this stacks it in Joshua's favor. I think the 16 gives a bigger advantage to Joshua than it does to Andy compared to the 2 week. Like, making them have longer to prepare for each other. I think the longer they have to prepare, the more it helps Joshua.
Sure.
Like, even with what you said, if he's been fighting these guys since forever and he's got more experience in this specific type of matchup, giving Joshua more time is more helpful to Joshua than it is to Ruiz, right? So, like, Ruiz...
Yeah, no, okay, I can agree with that.
So, I think that's part of it. And like you said, the issue that I saw in the first fight is right when Joshua knocked down Ruiz, that was the problem. He stopped maintaining his range, and he actually stepped in to try to hook with Ruiz. Ruiz didn't actually close the distance on Joshua for the first knockdown.
Right.
Joshua came in and tried to hook with Ruiz and got knocked down.
Sure.
And I think from that point on, he wasn't actually, like, cognitively there anymore. Because you see him, he didn't have the same stance anymore after the first knockdown.
He looked like when Klitschko had knocked him down.
Yeah.
He was on autopilot.
He was on complete autopilot after that point. And that overexcitement is where I think the biggest issue was. And the second thing, which is Anthony Joshua's weight in that first fight, was much heavier.
Mm-hmm.
He was preparing to fight. Gerald Miller, who is the biggest heavyweight that I've ever seen. He weighs in at 317 pounds. Like, this man is enormous.
Right.
AJ was preparing for the biggest fighter in the heavyweight division and got the smallest and quickest on 2 weeks' notice.
Right.
And I think that strength-to-strength matchup, I don't think it's as simple as like, oh, he gassed or something, which a lot of pundits are saying. The take I have, hot takes, is his stabilizing muscles in his legs, which are the hardest muscles to actually really train, and they take a long time to get used to a weight. When you add more muscle mass on, you see him, he stepped in to Andy. That was a mistake. But the real problem is once he stepped in, he lost his balance. And I think once he got excited and he tried to make that quick move and the quick step in, his stabilizing muscles in his knees and in his core couldn't actually support the weight. He lost his balance a little bit.
Okay.
And Ruiz, being the damn great infighter he was, just pop.
Right.
Right? So I think now Joshua is so much smaller. He's prepared to actually, for the matchup.
He's 158 now, or is he 145? 245.
Kilogram?
yeah, sorry, 245.
Joshua, I think, it's hard because I was looking at the stones, and who the hell uses stones? It's so stupid. English people, what the heck, man? But it's a lot of stones. I think stones are 15 pounds, and I think he's like 15 to 30 pounds heavier.
Okay.
Lighter for this fight,
Lighter,
excuse me. Again, I don't fucking know with stones. I don't know. But he'll be lighter. He'll be more balanced. I think that in the same situation with a lighter Anthony Joshua, he's going to be able to stay on his balance more if he ends up in those infighting scenarios.
Okay.
But I will say, Andy Ruiz made really good reads in the fight. Joshua was on autopilot, and he was always dropping his left hand, but then from the beginning. Like, that was his strategy, clearly, was to come in with this stance. Then later in the fight, he started to drop his right when he jabbed. And the first knockdown of the 7th round, Ruiz read that, and when Joshua jabbed, he did a leaping left hook. Yep. And that was the first knockdown in the 7th round, and Anthony was done at that point.
Right.
He got knocked down again, but...
Right.
So I'm worried because Joshua doesn't fight well buzzed.
No, he doesn't.
And Ruiz has shown great instinctive in-fight adaptation. Like, I don't think he's a good tactician, but I think he's a great adaptive fighter. Mm-hmm. But I do think that Joshua will be able to take Andy out because I don't think he'll put himself in that initial situation of being off-balanced in close.
Right. Because
he'll be lighter. He'll be able to stay on the outside more. He'll be able to have a little bit higher output, just a little bit. Mm-hmm. His arms won't be quite as heavy, and his legs will be able to carry and maintain his balance more effectively.
I do agree with you in the point that, like, he needs to be a lighter, more mobile fighter, but his hands are not going to be anywhere as quick as Andy's.
No way.
And
Andy has the fastest hands in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
For sure, he's got the fastest hands in the heavyweight division.
So I
feel like we're both nervous, so we're being nicer than we usually are.
Well, no,
I'm nervous, bro. I'm like...
I actually like both fighters a lot.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like for both... A lot of people have been saying, especially Eddie Hearn, that, like, this is AJ's fight to win. And I agree to a certain degree. I agree, but I think if Andy loses this one, everybody will drop him like a hotcake.
Yeah, he's
right?
done.
Like, and that's why it kind of sucks because both fighters need to win this.
Yeah, for their careers.
And their legacy, right? Like, both fighters are done after this.
Like, Ruiz will be Buster Douglas if he loses this one. That'll be the narrative. Like, oh, the money got to his head. No matter how the fight goes, right? The money got to his head, and then he wasn't training as hard, blah, blah, blah. It was a fluke, blah, 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 right? Mm. Which, to be fair, is the argument that I made. But, it's hard. Because in the first fight, they both knocked each other down. And Joshua, aside from the knockdown, he actually had some great moments in the fight. Which I feel like a lot of people's... The narrative that they're putting out is like, oh, Joshua knocked Ruiz down first. And then Andy dominated the fight after that. It really wasn't the case.
No, he was on autopilot for what, 3 more rounds? And
6. Well, he got knocked down in the second, right?
No, he got knocked down in the 7th, and then he got knocked down, and he got knocked down in the 3rd.
The first knockdown, right? The first knockdown was in the 2nd or the 3rd. I'm having trouble remembering. It was
and then
really
it
early,
7th,
man.
right?
What was it?
And then AJ got knocked out in the 7th.
Yeah, AJ got knocked out in the 7th. AJ got knocked down in the 7th, then he got knocked out. And AJ was knocked down, I think, 2 or 3. He was knocked down twice in the same round, which was the first time he got knocked down. And then he was knocked down once more in the round after that.
So let me ask you this, though, because I think that this fight, more than most, is gonna either come down if AJ cannot circle out and jab Andy to death, which I think that AJ's going to want to knock him out.
I think so too.
Because he
statement
the way he talks about somebody like a Parker, right, who wants to point fight people, right? If Parker can knock somebody out, then he's gonna do it. But he's gonna point fight.
Yeah.
Right? And AJ just from how he's talked, maybe he's changed and he's just saying this because
even in the first fight, the reason that he got knocked down the first time is because he rushed in to try to finish.
Right.
To get the knockout.
Right.
Because it was kind of a similar thing where it was like, oh, this is your big showcase match for the United States.
Right.
Go get some fans, knock out this late replacement. And he jumped the gun hard.
And I think that that's just something internally in him because he plans to not have a decision.
Right.
He plans to knock people out. And that's internally in him. And I don't think, because 6 months? 5 or 6 months from now, he's going to be able to change that.
I think you're right.
And I think that it's going to come down to who fights more when their legs are out, when they see spider webs in their vision, like who's going to be able to take that further. And I think Andy's always going to do that.
I think Joshua's autopilot isn't as good
as Andy's, and I don't think Andy went onto autopilot.
I don't think he did
at all in the last fight. Like if
he
anything,
didn't seem buzzed even. He was
it was almost like a flash knockdown.
Yeah.
For Andy, right? And he ate some fucking crazy dynamite right hands from AJ once he got knocked down. So it was like he got knocked out.
They looked harder than the knockdown.
And the right came straight onto Andy's chin. Like, oh man. And also AJ's losing weight. So it's going to be less power.
Yeah.
And people say, well, he'll have crisper punches and stuff like that. That will be more devastating. I disagree. Mass time acceleration makes power in your punch. So he's losing weight. He's probably the game plan's probably going to be for him to move around a lot. So he's going to lose even more power. And I don't think he's going to be able to get the respect that Andy needs to back the fuck off of AJ.
Well, I think it'll be interesting because he definitely hurt Andy a few times in the first fight, but he also definitely AJ does his best work, I'd say, from mid range, even not long range.
Okay. He's a long range fighter.
He's got but his mid range long hooks, but they're actually, because they're long hooks, they're in the mid range.
Okay.
Anytime he was hooking with Andy at mid range, he was winning the exchanges. The times that Andy it was when Andy pressed into close range and was able to hook over the top, or when Andy would the only punch in the mid range he was having any effect with was the leaping left hook and the overhand right.
Mm-hmm.
But AJ won most of the exchanges in the mid range until that 7th round.
Right.
So I'm really curious how the fight is going to unfold, because like you said, there is a possibility that Andy's just going to walk through it.
Right.
He could just walk through AJ's power and close the distance more easily because he is lighter. But it's a good fight.
It's a great fight.
I think people are hyped for it for the exact reasons that we're going back and forth. But now I think the other aspect is the mentality, which is basically what we have been sort of touching on. And this says a lot, right? Did Anthony Joshua quit in the first fight?
Right.
And if so, what does that mean?
And he did quit, right? And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, right? But very clearly he could have argued, he walked up casually.
The biggest thing is he turned his back.
Turned his back.
That is
he put his arms up on the thing, and I don't think anybody could really argue that was a bad stoppage.
It wasn't a bad stoppage.
Because he was mentally gone at that point.
Yeah, he was done. Joshua, if a fighter turns their back and walks away from the referee, keeps their hands on the fence, doesn't lift their hands up to show responsiveness,
right?
He quit.
Yeah.
He quit. Now, I think a lot of people are wrong when they're like, "Oh, Anthony Joshua quit. He has no heart. He is no Danny."
Sure, he has heart.
It's like the man got knocked down. How many times do you want to see this guy knocked down? He got knocked down 5 times. The 2 knockdowns in the 7th round, I thought were the most brutal of the fight. Like, do you want to see the man knocked down 8 times?
And shorten his career.
Yeah, it's like, but the thing is too, like, number one, I think he was on complete autopilot. I don't think he was cognitively even there from the first punch. He got knocked down 4 times and came back and tried to fight. Like, what do you want from the guy?
To be fair, he beat Klitschko when he was buzzed and dazed and on autopilot, right? Like, his heart cannot be questioned, but I think when it comes to his Andy Ruiz's heart, that caloric, buttery heart of Andy, you know, like I think Andy's is just stronger.
Well, here's the question. I don't think Andy's mentality or his heart were even questioned. I feel like you have, it's almost like like Halo. You have to crack the shield to hit their health, right?
Sure.
You have to crack someone's chin to even get to like their mental fortitude and their heart. Andy's chin was never cracked in that whole fight. Like, he got knocked down, sure, he took some big shots, but he wasn't discombobulated.
Sure.
His body language never changed. His
Right.
facial expressions never changed. Anthony Joshua, 1st round and 7th round, was a completely different human being.
Right.
Like, it was the same hardware, different software.
Right.
For sure. So, it's difficult. Like, I don't think we know anything about Andy's heart, which is a testament to his chin. Not saying he doesn't have one.
Right.
But I think that I think the narrative should be like, wow, Joshua showed so much damn heart in that fight to come back from 4 knockdowns, and then after the 5th knockdown, he was still upset that it was stopped.
Right.
Like, I still think he quit in the moment, but like, if you haven't done combat sports, it's way easier to get on somebody for quitting.
Sure.
Like, if you've ever rolled with somebody who's better than you at jiu-jitsu, if you've ever like sparred somebody who's better than you,
had a flash knockdown,
or had a flash knockdown, like, everybody quits, man. It's just people have different thresholds, and I think Joshua showed a damn high threshold.
Not everybody quits, right? Because there are people that like, and I'm not. I think just some people are built differently. Like, if I was on Bambi legs and I was like thinking about it, like I would quit, because I would say, you know, like, well, is this worth me shortening my lifespan? Is this worth the CTAE? But then there's people like Andy Ruiz that this is their fucking life, right? This is what they were made to do.
Yeah.
Right? They're a scrappy motherfucker from the ghetto, from California, right? And they've been fighting since they were 5. Anthony Joshua has been fighting since he was like, what, 19?
Yeah.
Right? And he's obviously intelligent. He's well-spoken. He has a lot of money at this point. I just don't think that he has that same mentality that Andy has.
See, but then I feel like Roberto Duran, right? No mask. Roberto Duran's one of the toughest mofos to ever walk the earth.
I think it was more than just. I think it was a frustration at being taunted.
Right, but what I'm saying though is, like, he still quit.
But he quit for different reasons.
But it doesn't. But there doesn't matter. Like, everybody has. My only point is
limit.
Everybody has a breaking point.
Sure.
I agree with you though. It's like, it's here and here. People are different, whatnot.
But I think what, like, okay, so if let's just say,
do you think Joshua has a small heart though?
No. I just think that he doesn't want to get damaged beyond the point that he's not going to be remembering himself when he's 70.
When he's 30.
When he's 30, yeah. Which is a year from now.
I know. But I think that's the difference. I don't think it was like a cognitive decision to quit. I think he just didn't have anything more. Like, I don't think he was there cognitively enough to think through like the CTE,
perform, and
all that stuff. I think it was more so just like, damn. Get up, like, get to rope, stand up. And I think that's like literally the only thing his body had left was like, get to the ropes. Right. And so that's why he turned. That's why he was on the ropes. Like, I don't think he literally was having a single thought go through his brain except for that. Sure. And that was the problem. Right. And he was done. Like, he was done. It was a great stoppage. But it's dumb because fans at the same time they're like, oh, protect the fighters, don't have late stoppages and stuff. And then when there is a stoppage like this, they're like, oh, this pussy quit. What an idiot.
Fight game stuff, man.
Yeah, it's like, what a pussy. He's out. He quit.
Fans are the worst.
But, like, I don't know. Joshua, he he obviously didn't want to continue fighting, but he obviously still hadn't given up on winning, if that makes sense. Like, that's the dichotomy.
Right.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he, like, didn't know what the ref was even saying. Like, you even see him watching, and he's just kind of looking like, what? What's going on? And the ref goes like this. Then he's like, no! So, like,
Right.
there's a big... That's how I read it.
Sure.
And I do agree with you. Like, I think of the two, Joshua is more likely to quit than Andy is.
Mm-hmm.
Partially because I think Andy's cardio is better. I think Andy has an amazing chin. And I think those are the two biggest factors.
I also think he's been doing it a lot longer than Anthony.
He also hasn't taken as much damage, weirdly.
Right.
Which is a big factor. Like, I'm a big believer in people's chins degrading over time as they take more damage.
And AJ has taken... I mean, he got rocked by Klitschko.
He got rocked by White.
Really? Dillian White?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Bad.
Okay.
Like, with a hook, actually.
Okay.
Funnily enough, he got buzzed with Klitschko. He got rocked by White. He got knocked down, like, 5 times by Ruiz.
So he's had some... He's
taken
moments.
some damage.
Yeah.
So I think Anthony Joshua quit, but I don't think that says anything bad about him.
No, absolutely not. Well, I think it's admirable if you have in the back of your head like, okay, this is money. Do I value money once I have it?
Bro, if AJ had a single thought running through his head at that point, then he should, like, I don't know. He's a brilliant brain, because
Yeah.
the man, it's like if you took a computer and just smashed it with a sledgehammer over and over again. It's like, maybe it'll turn on, but it isn't gonna run like Adobe Premiere or something, right? Like,
that CPO is fried.
He's fried. Like, the lights were on, but nobody was home for sure. It's weird how actually brutal that fight was on the rewatch.
Yeah.
Because it was brutal, and people don't talk about it like it was I think it's because nobody got cut and nobody's face really looked bad after. Mm-hmm. Like, Joshua or Ruiz, neither Joshua nor Ruiz had swelling.
Right.
But they
took damage.
Bombed each other.
Yeah.
They unloaded all over each other's face. It looked like brazzers, like Cape Horn. They just were unloading constantly on each other. But ultimately, I do think that Joshua is going to... I think Joshua has more motivation.
There's a lot of factors.
Yeah, I think Joshua's more motivated by legacy. I think Andy's more motivated by prize fighting. And I think that, in my opinion, is going to be what this fight comes down to. Mm-hmm. Joshua wants to cement a legacy. Joshua is thinking about, like, fucking Achilles stuff. Like, how will I go down in history?
Sure.
Andy's like, hey, man, I bought a G-Wagon and a Rolls Royce this week. I'm a happy camper.
I mean, it would appear that way.
Yeah.
Right? But also, it is a big deal to be the first Mexican heavyweight. It is a big deal to...
But is it a big deal to Andy? That's the question. Because it doesn't matter unless it's a big... Like, unless... And because people, me and you talk about this all the time. People say a lot of stuff,
you think somebody that has been fighting for 5 years old...
But it's what's his reason? That's what it is. Like, I'm sure if you asked him, he'd be like, yeah, it's a big deal. I'm super proud.
When he was 5, do you think it was because of money?
Yeah.
Like, when he was 5?
Bro, like, I don't... Do you know, like, is his family... Does his dad box? Who boxes in his family? Like, who got him into boxing?
That's fair.
I think it was always, like, I'm Andy Ruiz. I'm going to be a boxer. Like, I'm going to make enough money to take care of my wife and my kids, which, by the way, that's not a criticism.
It's not a criticism.
That's 100% an admirable goal. I think he might have had a goal of getting the belt or even being a unified heavyweight champion of some sort, right? Mm-hmm. Which he is. Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, he's never been a guy who's talked about legacy, like you said. So I think his biggest motivation in this fight is, like, show it's not a fluke and beat Joshua. And and I think the biggest motivation is, damn, I get that Saudi money and that DAZN money on the rematch.
That's true.
And so I don't think Andy would ever not try in a fight. It's kind of the same thing we were talking about with Cowboy Cerrone. Like, never in a million years. But is he going to push quite as hard? Is he going to have the same, like, be willing to make the same gambles? I think Andy would, right?
No, definitely.
But in training camp or, like, I don't know. It's hard to say because if you don't have something internalized, it's like, will you just do that? What separates someone from being a great to being like an all-time great.
And I think that he's like, okay, so if he has somebody who's a Customato to a Tyson Fury, right? Like
to a Mike Tyson.
Or sorry, Mike Tyson. Yeah,
we're
like,
both on these names today,
right?
man.
It's terrible. You know, like then that roadmap can work, right? Because as much as I like, you know, Mike Tyson, you know, it's just very much like he was not a
gun.
Yeah, he was the gun.
He was the gun that Customato pointed.
And I think if Andy's coach, and I'm not saying he's as good as Cuss, but I do think he's a good coach.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, I think it could play out similarly.
Man,
but
there are actually a weird number of parallels between Andy and Mike Tyson that no one talks about. Like they're both shorter heavyweights.
Yeah.
It's because they look nothing alike.
No, exactly. Yeah.
But they both are short heavyweights that make up for their shortness
and
with
their
quickness and with blows that come from the outside over.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they're not super similar aside from that though, so that's probably why.
Yeah.
But it is a good parallel.
Yeah.
It's like, has there been another good short heavyweight fighter since Tyson? Before Andy?
Well, Klitschko fucked them to oblivion, so...
Oh, man, Andy versus Klitschko. When in Klitschko's prime, that would be awful.
Terrible fight.
But that is why we are super stoked for it. Guys, if you don't know, it's in Saudi Arabia. The downside of this, the upside is Andy Ruiz gets plenty of diaper money. Yep. The downside is that the fight's going to be on at like 3 in the afternoon. So we are going to be doing our first watch through of it on Saturday night. So you guys are free to join us. If you've watched, if you haven't watched it, whatever. We're not going to be watching your filthy savages. Y'all aren't casuals. You're savages. You filthy savages.
You're savages, not casuals.
You're filthy savages. We're not going to be watching the chat because we know you guys. You guys are going to spoil the damn fight.
Yeah.
Or you guys just be like, oh yeah, Joshua knocks him out in the 22nd. And then we'll be at 20 seconds. We're like, oh no! And then nothing will happen.
But we're going to upload our reaction afterwards.
Well, we're planning to stream it, but we just won't watch the chat.
I want to see the David Lemieux fight. After we're done, we're going to see the David Lemieux. I know that's not news to anybody, but I'm excited for David to go in and knock the fuck out of his opponent. Anyway.
But, yeah, man, it's going to be fun. I don't know. Ortiz Wilder was a good time. Mm-hmm. Like, on the hype scale, I'd give Ortiz Wilder like a 6. Yeah. This is like an 8 or a 9.
This is a 10 for me.
Really?
Yeah,
well, yeah, you love Andy.
Yeah.
I feel kind of, I don't know, man. I'm not going to feel good either way.
Well, no, I know that both men... Well, I do think Andy can come back from this, like, if he rematches Parker. Because I think he can rematch Parker, but, like, he's not having a belt.
Well, I feel like they would give him the AJ rematch.
A rubber match?
I think so. I don't think AJ or Eddie Hearn or anybody... Remember, they were trying to leverage AJ as the next huge boxing star in the U.S.
Right.
And I don't think that they'll, like...
Want to leave that 1-1.
Yeah. Unless they're trying to make it marinate, which is always stupid in boxing. And I feel like hopefully Eddie Hearn doesn't make that same damn mistake again. Because when you marinate it too long, the steak goes bad, baby. It just rots.
Yeah, and they need to... Whoever wins this fight is going to fight Tyson or Wilder, whoever comes out.
It better. Oh, we are going to kidnap Eddie Hearn, put him in this jank-ass secret hideout, and we're going to make him make the fight. We'll steal his phone. I'll be like, hello, I am Eddie Hearn. And they'll be like, that's what happened to your accent, Eddie. Yeah. Like, this is part of my plan to get Joshua big in America. I had to sound like a Midwesterner. Like,
you know what would be awesome is that if we have because we were talking about like the 3 kings of boxing, like before AJ got knocked out. But now we literally have four kings.
I'd love to watch all of them fight each other.
That would be fucking fantastic.
Great. Well, I'm curious too, like if Andy can, what does Andy have to do to cement himself as one of the top 4? Because none of them have beaten each other except Andy. So if anything, on paper, Andy has the best win.
Yeah.
I guess you can argue that AJ has Klitschko, but I would say like that wasn't Klitschko. That was
Tyson Fury has Klitschko before AJ.
Yeah.
Before AJ beat him.
That's probably... Ooh, but who's the better win? Because Klitschko was around so long, he was still old when he fought Fury.
But he was still old when he almost knocked the fuck out of AJ.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. Like, so who's the best win?
The Tyson Fury win was way better.
You think that's the best win?
Yeah, it was way better.
What about the Ortiz win?
He dominated him. What?
The 2 Ortiz wins for Wilder.
Oh, I mean, Wilder devastated him.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. But, like, those are definitely... to me, the best on the resume... Fury Klitschko beats AJ's Klitschko. That's right. So So AJ's out. AJ doesn't have like that seminal win, right?
Right.
Then Wilder has the 2 Ortiz wins, which
Right.
were both knockouts. But Ortiz, I wouldn't say is on the same level as Klitschko or anywhere close to it.
Right.
Although being a great heavyweight.
Great heavyweight.
So do we have the 2? And there's that draw with Fury and Wilder. That's the biggest X
Which
factor.
is bullshit because
Well,
Fury definitely won, but whatever.
Today's clickbait, I might be able to be like, maybe I was scoring it for Fury, maybe, possibly, but
No, it'll be interesting. Like this year is gonna be great for heavyweight boxing for sure.
I actually think Andy could beat Wilder.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like I would give Andy the edge versus Wilder, Fury the edge versus Andy,
Versus Andy,
and then Wilder the edge against Fury
AJ.
and AJ. Yeah.
I would say Fury and Wilder would be even.
Really?
I would say that AJ. I think AJ, any way you slice it, is not as good as the three. He's like the Tommy Hearns of the 4 kings. You know,
Like better than the rest.
better
Better than the rest, but not better than the Kings.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, Tommy Hearns. No. I would say he's like the Durant, because the Durant beat Sugar Ray once, and then he lost to Tommy Hearns. So it would go Hagler, Sugar, in my book. Hagler, Sugar, Hearns, and then Durant.
Durant was also up like 7 weight classes,
Yeah, he
which
was.
is just ludicrous. That man is a gem. But we'll have to watch it with you guys. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
No.
Do you want to call you around or anything?
Oh, I guess we should do that.
Yeah. We can do it on live stream.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
you
right.
guys will better tune in if you want to see the rounds, because I'm pretty mythical. I'm kind of a psychic.
Yeah, he's got a lot of good.
I called the Wilder,
yeah.
so we'll see.
You need to start betting on odds and stuff like that. Well, thanks guys for watching. Appreciate it.